Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Five Spot, where we give you nothing but the latest news and our inputs of what's going on in the NFL and all across sports. Well, let's start with that game last night. The Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. I think at this point, the Detroit Lions have now become a household name all across the world with fans that love watching the NFL, with Jared Goff now becoming a franchise quarterback again and showing that he can lead a team to a successful season. But at this particular point, is it more about Detroit or is it more about Green Bay? When I look into it from last night's game, it takes me back to the last game pretty much of the year when Detroit went into Lambeau Field and stole a win versus Aaron Rodgers. I think that was more of their coming out party. Coach Campbell, we all know, is a little bit energetic and a motivator for his football team. But what we've seen thus far from a lot of the talent through free agency and also through the draft starting to elevate their game to help try to boost this team to be one of the best NFC teams in the league at this particular point. But I just look at it from last night's game, and I'll take the Detroit side. The Detroit side, more of the defense being able to apply pressure on Jordan Love all game. The first half was awful for Green Bay, but more about Detroit and being able to apply pressure, show different coverages and looks, get some blitzes to get to Jordan Love. I believe Jordan Love was sacked 5 times in the game. But more importantly, having a stagnant offense for Green Bay put Detroit in great field position, creating turnovers, and also leading the scores. Armando, when you look at where this Detroit team is going compared to where Green Bay may be going, would you lean more toward Detroit, or would you lean more toward where Green Bay kind of has a high ceiling at this particular point?
Well, so where I lean, Donovan, is before the season, Detroit got a lot of love, right? I mean,
Right.
everybody, the whole media was loving them, and that's usually a bad thing. If the
Yeah.
media loves you,
Right.
run for the hills, brother.
Right.
Trust me, it's not a good day for you
Hmm.
because eventually they'll bring you down.
Right.
But having said that, the whole love was this team is going to matter. This team is going to be great for the season, and I wasn't ready to go there,
Right.
but this is how far I'm ready to go. This team will matter in the NFC North. They
Right.
are the class of the division, and really, that's all that matters because you're the class of the division. You're going to get in the playoffs, and you can go from there. But I look at that division, Minnesota winless. You've
Chicago.
got Chicago that's a circus and winless, and so the only thing that could stop them is Green Bay. And last night the Lions went to Green Bay and beat them in Green Bay for the second year in a row, and it was like not that close. I mean, not close at all. And that's their 6th consecutive divisional win going back to last season.
Well, I look at Jordan Love, and Jordan Love has shown splash plays and the ability to create explosive plays. One thing we have to take into account, Watson was out as number 1 receiver. This was his first game back. Dodds has kind of been in and out. Their offensive line a little bit has been a little banged up. But yet and still, I look at the game last night and I wonder what the game plan was going in. Because when you're playing a Detroit team, which we know can create pass rush, and they do a great job of just disguising their schemes and blitzes, you decided to run the football 12 times for 27 yards. Now give or take. Now your number 1 running back is coming back. You still have A.J. Dillon there. Aaron Jones, excuse me, coming off of a hamstring injury. But you still have to run the football. Jordan Love is only, in his 4th or 5th start. He's still pretty much an official rookie if you look at it. And you decide to run the ball 12 times in the game in which you decide to let your quarterback, which I get you were down and you were fighting back, but he throws 36 times, 23 or 36 for 246 yards. But the two turnovers, the two interceptions were so critical. One backed up in the red zone, which gave Detroit an opportunity to score. And then obviously we've seen going into score that could have put that game at about, I think, 3 points or so. But I just think for Jordan Love, the experience now is starting to come and the development is starting to evolve. I think the patience for the fans now starting to wear a little thin because everyone talks, well, Aaron is here, that whole comparison. But more importantly, I look at LaFleur and I ask yourself, what kind of mentality did you come into this game with when you have this defense on the other side?
Well, but okay, so here's the problem. So David Bakhtiari is out. So
Right.
he's their left tackle. He's on injured reserve.
Don Runyon Jr. gets hurt.
Exactly. And Elton Jenkins is out. So their entire left side is not playing.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
It's hard. Look, I don't know. What would you do? You are just been hired head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Congratulations to you, Donovan McNabb. What do you do?
Well, you have to run the football. And my thing is, especially at this particular point, you're now again, you have your running back coming back from injury. I think he sat out the last 2 games for the hamstring injury that he suffered in Chicago. But you still have to run the football. No matter how you look at it, if you're down 20, if you're down 15, whatever it may be, run the football, neutralize the clock, set up the play action game. They started doing play action and you only run the ball 12 times. What linebacker is going to bite into the A and the B gap? Because first of all, you're down by 20. Secondly, it becomes 7-on-7 drops from the secondary because they're chomping at the bit to try to get interceptions or at least some pass breakups. And so why are you doing play action if you're not running the football? So for Matt LaFleur, this is going to be an evaluation time for himself, even though that your backside is injured, but you still have to run the football to take a little pressure off of your quarterback.
And I don't think that they run the quarterback enough. I mean, you see teams like the Bills, like the Ravens, they like the Philadelphia Eagles last year, the Chicago Bears, a little bit. They used the quarterback as a weapon in the running game. And last night, Jordan Love scores a rushing touchdown untouched.
On a QB draw. Yeah.
Right. Why don't they use him more in the running game?
Well, I mean, you mentioned teams pretty much who are lacking at the running back position. And I get to see the quarterback run. Jordan Love is not one of those kind of, as they want to quote, running quarterbacks, so to speak. I agree with you. At least he should get about 4 to 6 rushes a game. If it's QB draw, if it's scrambles, whatever it may be. Called runs, that's not like Matt LaFleur's type of offense. Remember, when he was in Tennessee, he didn't have Ryan Tannehill running as much. He had him just turn the ball, hand it off to Derrick Henry at that point. And I think if once their running back gets back fully healthy, then yeah, you'll start to see those carries go up. A.J. Dillon will run the football. He'll probably have about 4 to 6 carries, meaning Jordan Love. But offensively, I think they're starting to come into their own a bit, but the consistency will have to continue to develop from Jordan Love's stand. But let's go to the defense of Green Bay. I mean, I expected a little bit more from the Green Bay defense, and I just didn't see it in that game. Was it more for you? I mean, for me, it was Jordan Love and turning the football. So now defense is sudden change, but Jared Goff controlled that whole game.
He did. And you mentioned it at the start. To me, Jared Goff, I don't know how to describe Jared Goff because he's a Super Bowl quarterback. He went to the Super Bowl. I'll give you that, right?
Correct. And he was the first pick of the draft.
Yeah, but you're going to have to, drag me screaming to convince me that elite,
I never
top
said
tier.
elite. I never said elite.
Okay, but top tier.
Top 15.
Oh, I'm gonna have to drag you to top tier. Look at
I,
that.
I mean top 15. I mean, because when you look at when you say top tier, I'm thinking top four. Top
Okay.
four, maybe top five. No. Is he in that second tier?
No.
No. Yeah. And so
No.
that's when you go top 15. Top 15. He's
And
in
he
that
got all
Derek
he
Carr. He's in that Derek Carr. He's in maybe I would say more Daniel Jones, but
Ooh,
look, definitely higher than Daniel Jones.
okay. Yeah, he got all up in his feelings in the post game. I don't know if you saw it. He got in his feelings post game because Ryan Fitzpatrick called him a poor man's Matt Ryan. And Jordan, Jared Love, excuse
Golf.
me,
Yeah.
Jared Goff got all freakish for about 10 seconds and then, well, you're calling me a poor man's Matt Ryan. Well, dude, that's probably right. That's probably what you are.
Nobody wants
No?
to be a poor man's anybody, Armando. you know,
Yeah,
I get
that's
it.
what he said.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, when you say a poor man's, it's like you're close to that level, but not really to Matt Ryan. So yeah, I feel him with that. Yeah, and I'm sure he probably didn't want to hear that from Ryan Fitzpatrick either. So I get it. So yeah, it didn't come off right.
Yeah, no, look, but look, I don't know. That's a strange division.
Yeah,
That's just a sad division with two winless teams. I think it's
yeah.
the only division with two winless teams. I don't know if he's the best quarterback in the division, but the Lions are the best team in that division. The one thing, let me just run this by you real quick. The
Yes.
one thing that made me like throw up my popcorn in that game was when the field goal, Quay Walker, I believe,
Yes.
when he jumps over the center, which
Yes.
I love, and of course it's the flag, right? Because it's illegal, and it occurs to me, Mr. Philadelphia,
Yes.
that uh, the NFL says, well, the defensive player cannot jump over the center, even if he doesn't touch the center, because that's very bad. Very bad. Shouldn't happen. But the same
You
NFL
can't
says,
touch him. You can't touch him.
right. So,
Yeah.
but even if you don't touch him, it's a flag. And the thing is, the same NFL is saying, okay, but the offense can line up like with the entire group in front and get a push from behind, and that's okay. And that bothers me a little bit. I mean, that just, I don't know.
Well, I look at it in a sense. I mean, there's a lot that we can kind of peel back from that. The QB sneak deal, the tush push, is what they call it. Uh, I get that it's a little bit safer, so to speak. Then they're to protecting the center. Now the center in the field goal has his head down; he can't see. Um, that's a recipe for disaster, for injury. Because back in the day, we would always cover the center and just get the push right up on the center to push him back to now get at least three bodies in that two in the A gap and then one pushing the center to get right up the middle to get some hands on it. Now it goes back to one play that kind of led to this. I think it was a Monday night game. It was Seattle versus someone, and that's when Cam Chancellor jumped over the center and blocked the field goal attempt. But they said that he touched the center, and that's what I'm going back to. I think the jump was clean because he kind of jumped inside of him, but he hit him with his right foot, just kind of grazed him with his right foot, and that's when the penalty was. But more about Quez Walker. I think last year in that last game of the season, he got that penalty that gave Detroit the ball in the red zone for them to go for it on fourth down, which Jared Goff completed a pass. to ice the clock and win the game last year that Green Bay looks back on because it took them out of playoff contention with that particular penalty. And I just think Green Bay hasn't really kind of recovered from that whole deal, especially now when Walker gets this other penalty in this game, which they were coming back at that time. So I just think for Green Bay, this is one they have to win the next two games to get back on track, especially for in the NFC North.
That's just a young team.
Yeah.
And again, going back to that division, they're not ready.
No.
The Lions are ready. And
Yeah.
Minnesota, oof, and
Yeah.
the Bears, double woof.
Yeah. Well, let's move on from with the game from last night, and let's go to the exciting games. I guess we could say for this weekend. More of the excitement of the Ravens, Browns, Dolphins, Bills, Eagles, Commanders, and the Patriots and Cowboys. Let's start with the Ravens, Browns. Just let's quick note, and then let's see who you pick as we go along. I look at it in a sense for the Cleveland Browns defense is legit. To me, they're the best defense in the league statistically. Their safety and Grant Delpit, I think, is a guy that continues to lead their team in tackles. I think he has 16 tackles, also with one interception. We already know about Myles Garrett. I think with Jim Schwartz in that defense, being able to apply pressure on opposing quarterbacks creates so many problems with his nickel scheme when you're moving, Garrett, around and you're trying to find blockers and he creates problems. Deshaun Watson is starting to kind of come into his old self a bit. I think the running game still is going to kind of evolve more when their leading rusher, obviously Nick Chubb, being out. So they're going to now go running back by committee, I think, with Ford and also, obviously bring Kareem Hunt back. But do you think it's more about Baltimore and their lack of explosion? Because their leading rusher is Lamar Jackson. And we talked about those running quarterbacks who may need to run 4 to 6 times. Lamar Jackson is their leading carry. He leads in carries and yards. And it's like the same old offense for Baltimore. When you have a new offensive coordinator and coming from Georgia, you would expect more explosion plays. Now, I know people will talk about the injuries with their wide receiving, with Bateman, with Odell Beckham being hurt. Yeah, and then their leading receiver is a rookie that they drafted in Flowers. And so I just think for this offense, I want to see a little bit more from Baltimore as far as the consistency with running a football and play action game. But I think I picked the Cleveland Browns to win this game.
So the Cleveland Browns, this is how good they are on defense. They have made the quarterback kind of secondary.
Yeah.
They, they basically signed and traded for Deshaun Watson to be elite. They paid him like he's elite. They paid him guaranteed like he's elite, and he hasn't been elite for whatever reasons, right? But this year so far, that defense has been so dominant that even when the quarterback is good to middling, it's fine because those other guys aren't going to score. And not only aren't they going to score, we're going to get you some short fields. We're going to score.
Right.
And when you have that kind of defense and you turn quarterback play into a secondary thing in the NFL, you have become a championship caliber team because eventually talent rises to the top, and the quarterback who was paid to be elite and was paid, a lot of guaranteed money to be elite will figure it out and he can become elite again. And now you've got a monster.
Well, the thing of it is you allow your quarterback to get himself in rhythm. And especially with losing Nick Chubb, when you have a defense like this, now Nick Chubb becomes so important because you're eating the clock. You're running the football, you're moving the chains. The play action game opens up. The quick game becomes an extension of the run game. And losing Nick Chubb will hurt this team. But last week, I saw an offense that started to open up a little more. Obviously, Kareem Hunt came back. Kareem Hunt can catch the ball out of the backfield. He becomes more of a threat in the passing game. Running the football less than 10 times was perfect for him. But I think when you look at just this team overall, it starts with the defense, and then the offense now becomes your secondary. It's not so much the quarterback, it's the offense. And then special teams plays a major part for them as well, because the 3 and outs now leads to punts. So now that special teams gets the field position they need to be able to get their offense going. But let's just move to the offense and defensive side for Baltimore. Defensively, Baltimore, to me, I would say they're kind of overlooked, so to speak, because coming into this season, we thought the offense would be able to carry until I should say the defense would carry until this offensive coordinator can kind of get his guys going in the right direction. I'm not seeing that defense being dominant like we've seen over the years. Maybe because they don't have the faces to really highlight like we've done in the years. But I'm expecting more from a turnover standpoint from this defense.
So what you said we shouldn't do to Jordan Love, which is compare him to the past quarterbacks, we are doing to the Baltimore Ravens defense, which is you have to be back there.
No, not with the Ray Lewis and Goose and them. I'm talking more with when they had C.J. Mosley and Doomer and those guys coming off the edge, and when Houston, even 2 years ago or last year, coming off the edge. I'm just not seeing that right now, at least in the first couple games of the year.
So I'm more, I guess I'm more disappointed in the offense, because I was told by a very good source named Lamar Jackson that he might throw for 6,000 yards. He said that. I didn't say that. He said that. And this offense, it might throw for 6,000 yards in the next 2 years. But I don't, to do that, you've got to do a lot of special things. And one of those special things is be durable. And they've got players on the outside on which Lamar Jackson has to count on who are not durable. OBJ is not a durable player.
Right.
Bateman has not been a durable player. And shockingly, they missed last week. I don't understand. Now, not durable players don't play. Wow. So that to me is problematic. And then they're kind of banged up last week and banged up front. And now they don't have a running game. And so now it's the Lamar Jackson, do something for us, Lamar.
Yeah. They're going back to the old Baltimore Ravens and just turn around and watch Lamar Jackson do his thing. And that's not going to evolve this team going forward. But let's stay with the durability aspect. Let's go to Buffalo and talk about that game. That's probably going to be the highlight game, I believe, of the weekend. The Miami Dolphins and what we've seen so far from explosion standpoint offensively and running the football. When was the last time we even mentioned running the football with the Miami Dolphins and what they've been able to do so far with the rushes, the explosion plays, yards per carry? These guys really doing a good job to set up that play action game to allow the wide receivers to pretty much just eat any corner that they may be faced with. This to me is more of a must-win situation from a mental standpoint for the Buffalo Bills. I'm picking the Miami Dolphins to win this particular game only because I think Tua Tagovailoa is the best quarterback right now in the NFL. And offensively, Mike McDaniels has this offense soaring. And so their defense now has an opportunity to just peel their ears back and get to opposing quarterbacks. So when you talk about going back to the running quarterback aspect, I look at this game and look at the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen's going to have to do everything for them to win this game. And I just don't see them doing that on a consistent basis in Buffalo. The Miami Dolphins, to me, will be able to move to stay undefeated, I believe, after this weekend and continue to propel themselves as the best team in the NFL. But Armando, I mean, I got a feeling you're probably going to pick Buffalo because you're going to say upset. But if you do, I'm just going to give you a heads up. People in Miami are going to be so upset with you.
Yeah, no, I'm not stupid. I mean, I might be dumb, but not stupid. And so, look, the Dolphins have the greatest show on surf
Right.
offense right now. Get it? Yeah, greatest show on surf. You like that? You like that?
Yeah, that was nice. Nice.
Yeah,
What about the
thank you.
turf, though? Surf and
Uh,
turf?
that's interesting. So you mentioned their running game. They
Right.
rushed for 350 yards last week,
Right.
and people should not forget Mike McDaniel, when he came from the San Francisco 49ers, he was their run game coordinator.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the dude knows how to draw up running plays.
Yeah.
And they do it with such speed that it overrides the offensive line being okay, not
Right.
elite, okay.
Right.
It overrides your running back core not having a huge name
Right.
player. It overrides a bunch of things, and defenses are so worried about the quick passing game
Mhm.
that all of a sudden, hey, what's going on? But I gotta say this, and here's the big but. They scored 70. They put the big, 10 touchdowns on the Broncos last week. The week before, they scored 24.
Right.
Okay, on the Patriots. So I love the hype and I love the hyperbole, but
Back off
pump
a bit.
can we pump brakes until maybe Monday?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you're not ready to pump brakes.
You know what? It's not that I'm not ready to pump brakes, but I'm just seeing scoring 24 to 35 points in the NFL to me is big. If your defense at least is above average. Now we've seen explosions like the 70 points. We've seen explosions of teams scoring 38 points or 40 some points. We've seen that, but that's not consistent in the NFL. What we do know is the Miami Dolphins can score. And so I think for this particular point, it's more of the defense being able to at least neutralize the Buffalo offense to keep them to 17 points. Then I think now we're talking again with a 24-28 point average from this particular Miami offense to be able to win that game because of that.
And one thing I would say to you, the Dolphins match up really well with the Bills.
Yes.
And we saw it last year. I mean, I was at that game, that playoff game where the Dolphins come to the game with not their first string quarterback, not their second string quarterback, but their third string quarterback, who's a rookie. And they lost the game, I think, by like 2 points
Yes.
against the Bills
Right.
at Orchard Park.
Right.
And the difference, they played 3 games last year. I think the total difference in the games, the total net difference was Bills +2 or 3, plus
Yeah.
3, I think.
Yeah.
So my point to you is the Dolphins with their starting quarterback, they match up good. It's a good matchup for them.
Speaking of good matchup, this is a big matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe, because this Commander defense is overlooked. Eric Bieniemy has continued to put his name in the hat for future head coach, possibly next year, should be next year. Ron Rivera has kind of taken a step back to allow Bieniemy to control that offense, which I think it's really helped this football team out. The Philadelphia Eagles has run the football, one of the best rushing offenses in the NFL. DeAndre Swift is running the football like he's back there, like Gale Sayers back in the day with Chicago. I just think for this particular game, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles will come out on top because of their defense, and they will apply pressure to Sam Howell to get that ball out of his hands. I think Philadelphia creates 2 to 3 turnovers in this game, which will help them win.
Yeah, the Commanders, they've given up 19 sacks this
Yes.
year in 3 games. Not
Mhm.
good. No bueno. Not good. And that you basically uncover your young, inexperienced quarterback. So Sam Howell is running around with no pants on, trying to escape because he's uncovered by the offensive line, and that's problematic. Eric Bieniemy, you mentioned him. He had a very colorful way of describing his issues and
Yeah.
his problems this week. I think he said so. What was it? I didn't do a great job whether we threw the ball or whether we ran it last week. Okay, obviously we didn't do enough. So my job is to make sure that, hey, you know what? We don't do that bleep again. My job is to clean up the bleep so we continue moving forward. You think he's gonna clean up bleep?
Is it the bleep or is it clean up what he messed up before? Yeah, I get it. I know Eric very well, personally. He's I want to say animated, but he's passionate with his conversation. He's passionate with his play and now with his coaching. But I can say I've been impressed with them. Take out that Buffalo game because that Buffalo game from the start was bad for the Commanders. But I've been pretty impressed by the management with Sam Howell, the organization of how this offense is operating, and utilizing their weapons. And to be honest with you, I mean McLaurin is their guy at the wide receiver position, but don't sleep on Dotson. I just think their wide receiving core is underrated, and he's really given Sam an opportunity to get the ball out and push it downfield. So it'd be interesting to see if he'll have enough time in this particular game to do that.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, the Eagles are just a better team.
Yeah,
Let me get really technical with you. They're better.
they're better.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, and any given Sunday, anything can happen. But this Sunday, what should happen is the team with more talent, a better quarterback, a better offensive line, a better defensive line. Well, maybe not a better defensive line, but more talent overall. They should win. That's it.
So let's take that to now this Cowboys game, staying in the NFC East, where this Cowboy game becomes so big for Mike McCarthy and this football team playing the Bill Belichick struggling New England Patriots. But when I say struggle, I don't mean uh, Chicago Bears. I don't mean these really struggling winless teams. I look at this New England team and I think defensively they're very strong. They're back to the bend but don't break type of defense. Mac Jones is playing way better than he did last year and controlling the clock. Besides hitting Sauce Gardner in the wrong areas, but that's another issue. And then when I look at what they're trying to do from an offensive standpoint, um, I look for them to open up a little bit more versus this Dallas Cowboy defense. Arizona was able to be successful running the football and neutralizing the clock. And the blitz scheme that Dallas came with, just wasn't strong enough. And I think New England does the same thing. But I think more of the story should be about Trayvon Diggs and that injury and how it's going to hurt this defense. I actually think the New England Patriots will win this game. And because of the loss of Trayvon Diggs, and now they can go to Bland and go after Bland and allow Gilmore to be on the opposite side and just continue to utilize that intermediate passing game, which Mac Jones is very strong with, and be able to control the clock.
Well, dude, we should have like upset alert sirens going off right now because you just picked the big upset alert of the week. Um, I I have a personal question.
Yeah,
Okay. So you mentioned Mac Jones
yeah,
and you mentioned that moment
yeah.
where he, banged somebody in the groinage. Tell the people, tell me, I mean, your best pile up story. What really goes on in that stuff? What's really the situation in those situations?
Well, I mean, it could be some pulling, some grabbing, some punching. Um, back in the day, you had to poke it in the eyes. Uh, for those with long hair, it could be pulling the hair. Just some little kind of advantage you would get to upset the guy that's either carrying the ball, falling on the fumble, or at the bottom of the pile. That's about it. I mean, I won't go any further to keep it real clean or what's going on this show.
Well, did you ever do that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm an offensive player. That's something I will say more for offense and defensive line. Those linemen get a little nasty to get an advantage to get the opposing team upset. Or if you got personal issues, you take advantage of it that way.
Well, my theory is someone did something to him, and him having a history for doing this stuff came back at it. I don't have any evidence. We don't even have a clear picture of what he did. He did this. Uh, but I mean, dude, I'm not sure if I liked it or didn't like it. I'm just glad I'm not Sauce Gardner and had to deal with it. That's all I'm happy about.
Yeah, that came out pretty bad as far as the commentary, and then Sauce then taking it to social media and highlighting with the video of what Mac Jones did. But as a quarterback, that's just not the norm. So I'm sure he'll probably get some type of penalty for that.
And fine, cha-ching.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I mean,
right?
how
I
can
mean,
Mac Jones explain that when you get that fine letter because you hit or you gave Sauce Gardner the business, so to speak? That's
well,
one to kind of be tough. That's going to be really tough.
absolutely. And you hit it right on the head. In perfect New England Patriots culture, how did he address it? We've moved on to next week and this game with the Dallas Cowboys. So he didn't address it. He learned from Bill Belichick. We're moving on to Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, and especially for us here on this show at the Five Spot, we won't do any low blows. We'll keep it high, stay
Woo!
focused. Make sure you tune in next week as we recap all the great wins and great losses for this weekend in the NFL and also in college here at the Five Spot.